Hello again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video I want to take a look at modes, specifically using modes as like the basis for a piece of music rather than using them as something that functions within a piece of music that's written in a straight major or a minor key. Might sound a bit weird, but it'll hopefully make sense when we get into it. Before we do though, I'll quickly sort of recap a little bit about where modes come from within the context of like a major key or a minor key. This is very much just basically intended to do a little bit of scene setting, kind of a bit of a refresher. If you've not come across modes before, or even like things like this basic harmony of a scale using chords, this might be a little bit advanced for you. I'd advise you to go back and look at some of the earlier tutorials that I've done on this channel, or even tutorials that other people on YouTube have done, probably better than mine, to be honest. But yeah, this is the first bit of the video is really just going to be a little bit of scene setting. So if we think about a major key, let's use C major as an example, as a starting point. If we have a major scale like C major, we can look at that in terms of scalar degrees. So we've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then it brings us back to C. And we number those degrees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Now, what we can do with that major scale is we can take the notes of the scale, arrange them, and then say build a chord on each degree of the scale by taking alternate notes from the parent scale, basically stepping through it in major or minor thirds. And if we're working with, say, seventh chords, what we would end up with is C major 7 is the 1 chord, D minor 7 is the 2 chord, then E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7, A minor 7, and then we can either call the last one B minor 7 flat 5 or B half diminished. The name means the same thing. And what we've got there are chords with degrees taken from the scale, and all those notes belong to the scale. Or we could look at that scale and harmonise out in terms of modes, where we take each degree of the parent scale, rearrange those notes from those notes, each note of the parent scale as a starting point, and we get these arrangements of notes, different formulas for those scales, and we call those modes. So we've got the first mode is the Ionian mode, C Ionian, same formula as the major scale, but call it Ionian when we're thinking about it as a mode. Then on the second degree we've got D Dorian, third degree E Phrygian, then we've got the Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian and Locrian modes as we move through the scale. And when we look at the relationships between the chords that we built and the modes, we can see that the notes of the chords relate basically to the modes, that in each case we take a 1, a 3 of some description, whether it's a natural third or a flat third. We take a 5th degree and then some sort of 7th, whether it's a natural or a flat 7th. And we get chords that are derived from the modes. And if we have a piece of music that's written in the key of C major, it will have those chords, and we'll know that it's in C major. There's certain things that give us like a bit of a giveaway that our melody generally will start or probably finish on the tonic chord, on the 1 chord. We'll make fairly heavy use of the 4 and 5 chords. When we play melodies, we'll focus in on strong notes from the key, like the C, that being the tonic. There's little things that are little giveaways that it's the we're playing in the key of C major. Interesting thing to look at is the 1, 4 and 5 chord. They're all major. Bear that in mind. With that, we'll circle back to that in a wee bit. So that's working with a major scale, but we could do the same sort of thing with a natural minor. So let's go to C natural minor. So we've got on the first degree we've got a C, second degree we've got a D. Because it's a natural minor, we've got a flat third, which is an E flat. We've got a 4th degree, which is F. We've got a 5th degree of G. Flat 6th degree, because we're in a natural minor, that's an A flat. We've got a flat 7th degree, so that's a B flat, and that brings us back to a C. And we can take those notes and we do exactly the same things we just did with the major scale. We can harmonize those out in 7 chords. So we get a C minor 7, D minor 7 flat 5, E flat major, F minor, G minor, A flat major 7, B flat dominant 7. Or we can arrange those out in modes, and we get basically the same modes that we found in the major, but they're in a different order. Same way that those 7 chords were the same chords as a type of chords that we get in the major, but in a different order. So in a natural minor, we get the C Aeolian mode, followed by the Locrian, followed by the Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian modes. But the relationship between the degrees of the key scale and the modes and the chords within the key, it's the same principles we had with the major. And when we're looking at the chords of the natural minor, we can see that the 1, the 4 and the 5 are minor type chords. You know, we'd expect the 1 chord to be minor because we're playing in a minor key, but the 4 and the 5 are also minor. Compare that to the major key where the 1, 4 and 5 were major. So if you've done this sort of harmony before, that should all be fairly familiar stuff. You should recognize the chord formulas, the approach that we've taken. You should recognize the modes and so on. But what I want to talk about really, so this is like the meat of this discussion, is the idea of using a mode as like your key scale. So rather than writing a piece of music or having a piece of music that's written in the key of C major or C natural minor, what happens if we have a piece of music and we say, well, my starting point is going to be C Dorian mode. And you could say, well, C Dorian mode, that's the second mode of B flat major, or you could say it's the 4th mode of G natural minor. So, well, why wouldn't I just write a piece of music in B flat major or G natural minor? And that would still give me the C Dorian. But remember, when we're playing in a key, there's certain things that we do that kind of reinforce what key we're playing in. The emphasis that we give to the 1 chord or the 5 chord. Certain ways that we would kind of focus in more on stronger notes from the key, starting or finishing on the 1 degree of the scale. So in this case, we're playing in C Dorian on a C, which would be different to what you would have if you were playing in the key of B flat major or G natural minor, if you see what I mean. So let's take a look at C Dorian mode. We've got C as the 1 degree. We've got a D as the 2nd degree. Dorian is a minor mode, so we've got flat 3, so that's E flat. We've got an F as the 4th degree. G is the 5th. A is the 6th degree. B flat is the flat 7th degree, and then back to C. So if we take that C Dorian mode scale as our starting point and we harmonize that out in 7 chords, we get this. Now we know that this is kind of correct because we're only using notes from the parent scale. We're only using notes that occur in the C Dorian mode. But look what happens on the 1, 4 and 5 chords. We've got a 1 chord which is minor, which makes sense because the Dorian mode is minor, so we'd expect to find a minor chord on the 1. We've got the minor chord on the 5th degree, so we've got G minor, that's cool. But the 4th degree is a major chord, which is a little bit unexpected because normally we say if we're in a major key, 1, 4 and 5 are major, minor key, 1, 4 and 5 are minor. So here we're playing with a scale which is minor in nature, but we haven't got consistently 1, 4 and 5 chords as being minor. That 4 chord is a major chord. And that gives us a different kind of feel to the piece of music. The reason I'm kind of was prompted to do this video was I've just put a record out available to download from Bandcamp now, and that has got a section in it. It's written in C Dorian, and it uses one section of it is basically a 12-bar blues progression, but it's a 12-bar blues progression in Dorian mode. So quickly, if you think about what happens in a 12-bar blues, you've got 4 bars of the 1 chord, followed by 2 bars of the 4 chord, then 2 bars of the 1 chord, 1 bar of the 5 chord, 1 bar of the 4 chord, and 2 bars of the 1 chord. So that's a major 12-bar blues. And we could do the same thing in a minor key, so C natural minor. We would have 4 bars of C minor as the 1 chord, then 2 bars of the 4 chord, which is F minor, then 2 bars of the 1 chord again, C minor, 1 bar of the 5 chord, G minor, 1 bar of the 4 chord, F minor, 2 bars of the 1 chord, C minor. Yeah, so good. But look what happens if we're playing this in the key of C Dorian, where the 4 chord is major, but the 1 and 5 chords are minor. So we have 4 bars of the 1 chord, then 2 bars of the 4 chord, which is major, then back to the 1 chord for 2 bars, and 1 bar of the 5 chord, which is minor, 1 bar of the 4 chord, which is major, 2 bars of the 1 chord, which is minor. So we'll get this. Yeah, so it's got a completely different feel to it, and what that allows you to do is play your piece in the key of C Dorian. You could play the C Dorian mode all the way over the top of that, because that is the key scale. You know, you would be focusing on playing like the C note, because that's the tonic, that's a strong note, in the same way that you would focus on the C if you were playing in the key of C major. You know, for all the C Dorian mode is the 2 mode of B flat major, you probably wouldn't focus on the B flat so much, because you're not playing in the key of B flat major. If you play the B flat, it would actually be functioning as a flat 7, and because of the way you would be focusing more on the strong chord tones, like using the C minor as the 1 chord. If you were playing a B flat, it would be sounding out and functioning more like a flat 7th degree of C Dorian, rather than functioning as the tonic, if you see what I mean. So for all the notes of that are the same as other keys, the way that we focus on particular chords and the way we focus on particular notes give us a C Dorian kind of feel and C Dorian type of vibe, rather than a B flat major feel or a G minor feel. Another good example is there's an old Kenny Burrell tune. I can't remember the name of it, and I can't remember what key it's in, so let's play it in C Dorian. It's written in the Dorian mode, and it goes from C minor 7 in this case to D minor 7 to a E flat major 7. So 1, 2, flat 3, 7, then back to 2. And I can play that as the underlying chords and play over the top of it with the C Dorian mode, and it'll sound absolutely fine. In fact, let's put it in the looper and you'll hear what I mean. Another example, again, coincidentally, I've just really in my mind because I did a cover version of this. It's available on YouTube. Link in the information section if you're interested. It's a theme from Get Carter, the old Carter Takes a Train. Is like the main theme from the Get Carter movie, and the main part of that goes. So if you look at the notes involved here, they all fit around an E Dorian mode. Yeah, so we're starting on the B, so starting on the dominant degree of a scale is not unusual, and then we go through the theme and we finish off on an E. I'm kind of playing that as a double stop. It implies like an E chord, but it's implying there's something E-ish going on here because of our note selection, and the chord progression, it's based around like an E minor 7 down to A major, down to A major again, G major, A major. So if you look at those chords, you say, well, I've got a G major and an A major. Well, what key do I get that those two chords in? Well, it would either be D major or B minor. But if you look at the notes that we're using in the lead melody line, there's nothing there that pushes us perhaps more strongly towards D major or towards B minor. Yes, we're starting on a B. Does that mean we're starting on the tonic? But if you look at the way that we select the other notes and the fact that we finish on an E chord, it's taking us away, I think, from the B minor thing. We do that. You know, the second note is a D, but again, the way the rest of the melody falls out, it's not really leaning towards anything that's particularly D major-ish. You know, and the fact that the chord progression never plays a D major chord or a B minor chord really suggests, well, we're not playing in D major or B minor, because those are strong chords and they would occur, if you see what I mean. And if you just look at the notes involved, yeah, all of those notes belong to the key of E Dorian, so it makes sense we can view this as a piece that's in the key of E Dorian. And that's like an important message when you're aware that a piece of music can be written in something other than a straight major or a straight minor, because it helps you understand it and helps you to interpret it. And so if I present you with a chord progression, and if you just look at the notes involved and you say, well, those notes are derived from, so like in the Get Carter example, you say, well, I'm looking at the notes here, I'm seeing the notes of D major, or I'm seeing the notes of B natural minor, therefore the piece must be in D major or B natural minor, because those are the notes that I'm hearing. You listen to the chords and say, well, it's kind of got more of a minor feel than a major feel. Okay, I'll treat this as something that's written in the key of B minor. And then you take that chord progression and you improvise over the top of it, and you play in the key of B natural minor, but you'll be leaning in on the B note as the tonic. It'll sound okay, but it'll sound slightly off. Similarly, if you say, well, I'll sound that's not slightly off, I'll try it as D major. Again, that'll sound slightly off, because for all you're using the right notes, the way the notes and chord progression relate to each other, they're not relating to each other in the same strong way that the notes would in a straight major key or a minor key, if you see what I mean. So that's something to be aware of. I've seen so many people get caught out when they've been presented with a piece of music and they're trying to figure out what key it's in, so they can, come up with their own solos, or they can come up with their own interpretations of it and say, well, I know that the notes are right and I know that the chords belong to a particular key, but when I play a solo, it's right, but it's just slightly off. If you focus on the pentatonics, You might get away with a wee bit more, is because of the way the relationships between pentatonics and other scales. It's a subject for another video. But it'll still sound slightly off because you're not treating it truly in the context of what the piece has been written in, because it's actually being written in a mode. So that's something to be aware of. And because it's been written in a mode, it has a Dorian type of feel rather than a straight major feel or a straight minor feel. And this could apply to any mode. All the examples I think we've used in this video have been Dorian, but same thing for Phrygian mode, Lydian, Mixed Lydian, and so on. A piece will have depending on the mode that you've used, it will have the feel of that mode. So like the Get Carter theme there, or that 12-bar blues from my Disco Chicken record, are kind of a Dorian type of feel. It's minor, but not as somber as a natural minor, that sort of thing. So each mode has its own characteristic kind of sound. So bear that in mind if you're interpreting other people's piece of music, and bear it in mind for your own composition. If you're wanting to write something and you want a particular feel, remember that you're not constrained to writing in straight major or straight minor. You could say, actually, I want this to have a modal feel, and you could take that approach that we did, where you take a mode, you harmonize that mode out in chords, and you use the chords from the mode in the way that you would the chords from a major key, where you focus on the 1, the 4 and the 5, which will probably would be some sort of combinations of majors and minors depending on what mode you've selected. And the mode that you select will give you its own distinctive sound. Some will work better than others. Dorian, we've heard how that sounds. Other ones might be a little bit more challenging, like Locrian mode. The formula of a Locrian, it's got some flat 5s in there, and it might sound a little bit odd. Not necessarily wrong. In the right context, it might be exactly what you're looking for, but it's not going to be as maybe as something you'd use as widely as something like a Dorian or a Mixed Lydian. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. That's the wonderful thing about music. It gives us a set of guidelines, but it's endlessly adaptable and endlessly variable, and that allows us to be so creative and come up with all these different things. Be aware that of the fact that when you're writing, you're not constrained to straight major or straight minor. If you want to go down a modal route, you absolutely can. So hopefully loads of food for thought for you there, plenty of things for you to think about when you're interpreting other people's chord progressions, and more importantly when you're being truly creative and writing your own stuff, knowing that there's the option of going down the modal route. Only really kind of scratched the surface in this video. It's a heck of a rabbit hole to go down, but I try to keep these videos at a reasonably manageable sort of length. Hopefully you found it useful. If you did, please click the like button down there. If you really found it useful and enjoyed it and want to see other videos that I post on the channel, then please click the subscribe button, which is also down there, and click the bell icon, and that way you'll be notified of any new videos that I post on the channel. If you've got a comment, you're welcome to leave a comment on a video, but I don't always get notified by YouTube when people leave comments. If there's something specific you want to draw my attention to, if you want to ask me a question, whether it's about music theory, guitar playing, guitar gear, anything at all, if you go here, there's a form you can fill in, and that question will then come directly to me, and I can get around to answering it in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.